So there's this crazy ass episode of Gumby that I saw a clip on Twitter or X, and I had to make a video on it. I just love the characters and all the clay or whatever I think it is. It looks so cute. But anyway, so he gets abducted by aliens, right? Let's just listen to what the aliens say.
Hey, what's going on here? We need samples of genes and chromosomes from your kind to develop a stronger breed of people. Because on our planet, radiation damages our DNA so that we are dying off to extinction unless we learn the secret of your vitality. We'll help you, but you know, we need help too. What do you need? The people on Earth are suffering from many kinds of pollution. We need your advanced technology to help us develop a clean source of energy.
Right, so we'll unpack that later, and then there's a final clip where the alien gives them like a free energy or, a long-term energy device, and he explains how it works.
Earth friends, this energy cell will power an electric automobile running non-stop at 55 miles per hour for 10 years, or it will power a household with all the appliances for 40 years. The central element is a crystal grown in zero gravity.
Does it need to be grounded when attached to a motor?
Then the element iridium encases the crystal.
Alright, so I drew this little diagram to try to explain what's going on essentially. Looks a bit funny, but anyway, let's get into it. So essentially this is the spectrum of we have an animal or a beast or a very beastly person, right? And then we have a human in the middle, and then we have the alien off to the right side. And of course the alien has positive, the animal is negative, and the human is neutral. And also says conscious, subconscious, and I guess in the middle is kind of both. This maybe electricity is not quite in the middle, it's more like here, but we'll just work with it, right? So anyway, and then we also have the spines with this funny looking thing down the bottom. We see the brain region here. This is kind of like the upper, like the chest and such region, and then this is like the lower body and like the what's it, coccyx and such to describe that, right? And we've got different fuel sources. So here's the paradox that I see on this episode is that the aliens have damaged DNA because of radiation on their planet. And I think the thing is that because of their super high-tech energy, that they've essentially caused the radiation or caused it, right? Because their technology would be based on what? Radiation, EMF, zero-point energy, all this kind of stuff, right? Well, the opposite, you think like natural fuels, which is carbon-based fuels, because coal is carbon-based, gasoline is a volatile hydrocarbon. Diesel is a kind of like an oily hydrocarbon. These are all carbon based. So carbon is negative, and everything's about like anti-carbon. It's all pro positive energy. Now I think they're both good. If you've never used an electric vehicle, I've used an electric bike, right? It's pretty convenient. Just plug it in, charge it. It's great. But one thing is that the radiation, the electromagnetic radiation, I think it's coming from, I don't know if it's specifically the motor, but maybe the actual inverter, converting the AC to DC. Maybe that's a pretty full-on thing. I found if you shield that, you put like foil around it and copper in it and all this kind of stuff, not grounding anything, not touching anything that shouldn't be touching, right? But it can actually reduce it. Now that's also to say like coal, and this is all combustive, right? This is combustive, like explosive stuff, because it's like you have to combust to move the piston. That creates like noise and vibration, so it has its own downsides. That's the thing. Carbon-based fuels have downsides, while clean fuels here have downsides as well. But they both have positives. So, and then of course maybe we could reduce the negatives. Making, for example, if you made hydrocarbons more clean or more, I don't know, like gas, Natural gas seems to be a decent, fairly clean power source, right? And if we had radiation, we could reduce, or electronics, we could reduce certain kinds of radiations, keep them in certain frequencies and such, and probably make it better. And then of course I've got things like steam and bio and electricity and all this kind of stuff. This is like futuristic technology, right? We think like aliens, they're all about futuristic. And I made this video ages ago, probably like a year ago, talking about the pure yang qigong cultivators, how they would basically stay in almost like a childlike form where they would be very pale, they would the hair would go white, and they would be fairly small and all this kind of stuff, because their body didn't grow, because they didn't have enough of the negative element. They'd be raising everything, but their brain and nervous system would be incredibly well developed, because the brain and nervous system is the positive, the flesh body is like the negative, and the organs is the neutral. So it's, if we kind of like think about that, it'd be this is like the brain and nervous system. These are your guts. It's like the neutral, and then your body is like the negative, right? So we've got these three poles of a body and such. So what one you cultivate specifically, what you're going to look like. People who are very negative cultivators, that they grow a lot more and they look more like an animal, like a beast, right? So they become more like this. And then you can kind of see the stigma and the change between people who are really into like big trucks and or diesel trucks, they got black smoke coming out the back. There's this like stigma, or there's this like culture about them. And then you got the opposite people, the city people, who are like really into electric cars and all this kind of stuff. Before like Elon Musk became like a taboo kind of person in that culture, then they'd all drive Teslas and such. So you've got this difference. And then I guess you have people in the middle driving like gas and just petrol and just biofuel and all this. That's kind of like in the middle, I guess. But anyway, the main point is that as the animalistic person grows technologically more towards this side, they shed their hair and their nails and their fangs and such, and then eventually this person becomes more technological and they go towards the alien, where the alien has no hair, it's got black eyes, the genitals are undeveloped, right? Because if you actually look into like, there's this video where this guy talks about like this alien, and it's got the same story of like radiation destroyed its home, and like they're trying to come here for genetics. They're very long, like small, kind of long, or not like long, kind of like thin fingers and all this stuff. It's got the characteristics of an excessive nervous system, but a lack of physical development. It's kind of like Asian people, I guess, are like here, and black people there, and then like the rest of the world's like in the middle in different areas. And you can think about that. So it's like whatever development. Basically, the radiation will cause us to become more like aliens if we don't, I don't know, figure some kind of balance out with it, which is we have to integrate the negative element into the positive technology somehow, which means like grounding all the electrostatic. It means having like base frequencies, using lower frequencies and such, so we don't become Mr. Alien. I'll have to put a picture of the alien. I love the alien in the Gumby show. It looks so funny. It looks so cute. It's great. Okay, now final thing is they said the power source of that long-term energy device, because it does have a limit of how long it can generate for, it was a crystal in the middle grown in 0G. Now assume, I don't know if the crystal matters, what it's made out of. Probably does, but maybe we can just imagine it's quartz. We've got a crystal here, and then we have on the outside it's an iridium shell. Now iridium is used in like spark plugs and all this kind of stuff, because it's what is it, like a really good conductor. It's a really good electrode. It's a bit like, I think it's like platinum, and there's some other ones where it doesn't really degrade. So I don't know, it could be some kind of I don't know, something like that. But from what I understand, firstly is a 0G crystal. It would be grown with a really good structure. So this is kind of meant to show the structure. It's like the atoms in like a positions or arrays or whatever you want to think about it. My idea of the wiring would be, because I imagine the crystal would be an AC generator, so to speak. So you would have the hot wire, or you think, I don't know, you want to call the positive or the negative, because technically the positive and negative flip in AC, so it doesn't really matter what, as long as you know the direction of like forward to backwards, so to speak, to wire it up properly. And then your iridium would be the ground, or which is just like to block off things and to keep like energy from like zapping everything and all that kind of stuff, right? So when here we have the crystal, and what I imagine would be going on, I've tried to talk to ChatGPT to understand all this physics and such. This isn't really my specialty, unfortunately. Is that the crystal essentially would be a resonation chamber? You think a quartz crystal, it vibrates, it resonates, right? And it goes, boof. So it would be, well, I think what you would be doing is you would be feeding it in. I don't know if it would be EMF, or you'd actually be hooking it up to electrodes or something, or how you would be doing this, or maybe even if just the iridium was a negative and the crystal was a positive, or flip them around. It could be, maybe it could just be that way. Who knows? But somehow you would be feeding the crystal energy, or it would be gaining energy, or maybe even just from the iridium being covering it, it could like self-resonate. I'm not exactly sure, but somehow the crystal resonates. The iridium is like a shield. It like protects and covers it so that the resonation can stay in the resonation chamber, which is the crystal. So it's almost like a transformer. If you know about transformers, we have like a coil and you feed it in either high voltage and it turns it to high amperage, or you feed it in high amperage and it turns to high voltage. So I think that's what's going on with the crystal. You're feeding it some kind of like resonation through energy, electricity, and then it like transforms it to a more higher energy source through self-resonation. A bit like if you yell into a like an underpass, a train underpass, and then you get that loud echo, and it's just this continuous like echo and echo, or like a room of mirrors, and you're somehow, that's, I guess, creating more energy or something. It's some kind of zero point energy device. I know people who know more about that stuff can really explain it better. So anyway, I hope you like this, because I thought it was so fascinating.